Here's something that almost nobody tells you. The people most likely to be genuinely gifted are also the most likely to spend their entire lives convinced that something is quietly wrong with them. Not wrong in a dramatic way. Wrong in that low, persistent hum of a way, like you're always slightly out of tune with the world around you and you can't figure out why. And the cruel irony is that the very thing making them feel broken, that's the gift itself. Welcome to Decoded Psychology, where we go beneath the surface of everyday human behavior and uncover the psychological forces quietly shaping who you are, how you think, and why you feel what you feel. Today, we're not talking about IQ scores. We're not talking about academic achievement or prodigy stories. We're talking about 10 psychological patterns documented in real research that show up in genuinely gifted people and almost always get misread by teachers, by partners, by colleagues, and most painfully, by the people who carry them. Sign 1, overexcitability. The first one is called overexcitability. Polish psychologist Kazimierz Dabrowski spent decades studying gift, or D, individuals, and noticed something that didn't fit the standard model. These people didn't just experience the world, they experienced it at a higher amplitude. Music didn't just sound good, it physically moved through them. An idea didn't just interest them, it took over. A conversation didn't just happen, it echoed for days afterward. This isn't the same as being anxious, or overly emotional, or difficult. It's a nervous system that processes incoming information with an intensity most people genuinely cannot imagine. And for most gifted people, this has been framed as a problem their entire lives. It isn't. It's the signal itself. Sign 2, the why question second. You have always asked why. Not occasionally, compulsively. As a kid, you probably pushed adults to the edge of their patience, not because you were being defiant, but because surface answers never actually satisfied you. You needed the mechanism. Most people, when they hit a plausible explanation, stop. Gifted minds don't stop there. Cognitive researchers have found that high-ability individuals show a distinctive tolerance for unresolved, or D questions. They can sit with ambiguity, with complexity, with open ends while simultaneously pushing harder toward deeper understanding. That combination is rare, and it tends to make people around you uncomfortable, which over time, you probably learn to manage by just going quiet. Sign 3, feeling out of sync third, and this one tends to hit differently. You have spent most of your life feeling slightly out of step with the people around you, not superior to them. Just not quite on the same frequency. Researchers at the Gifted Development Center have documented this extensively. The conversations don't go deep enough. The humor lands differently. The interests don't align. And after years of this, you develop a kind of low-grade social exhaustion that's very hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. You've probably tried to tune yourself down. Most gifted people do. And that effort, that sustained performance of being less than you are, is one of the more quietly damaging things a person can do to themselves over time. Sign 4, perfectionism. Fourth is perfectionism, but not in TH. The casual way that word usually gets used. This is something more specific and more painful. Gifted individuals tend to operate with an internal benchmark that nobody else can see. You know exactly how close your work came to what you actually envisioned, and the gap between those two things is excruciating even when the people around you are genuinely impressed. Research in giftedness consistently links this to unusually high metacognitive ability. Your brain is extraordinarily good at evaluating its own output. That's a real cognitive capacity, but it means you are, almost by design, your own harshest critic, and there's no off switch for it. Sign 5, intellectual camouflage. Fifth, you learned probably early how to hide it. Many gifted people, especially those who grew up in environments where standing out felt risky, develop what researchers call intellectual camouflage. You learn to slow yourself down, to let others arrive at the answer first, to not ask the question you already knew the answer to. You learned that being too much made people uncomfortable, and so you became less. And the terrifying thing about that pattern is H, how thoroughly it works. After years of it, gifted adults genuinely lose access to what they're capable of. The camouflage stops being a strategy and starts being a self. Sign 6, divergent thinking, the sixth sign. Your mind connects things that don't appear to belong together. You've always done this, made lateral jumps, found patterns in unrelated fields, arrived at conclusions you couldn't fully explain because the route there was more intuitive than linear. Neuroscience researchers have found that gifted individuals show significantly greater neural connectivity between brain regions that don't typically communicate with each other. Your brain is literally wired differently, not better in every context, but differently in a way that makes you see things others don't, and sometimes miss things others catch easily. Sign 7, moral sensitivity. 7th, injustice doesn't just bother you. It gets under your skin in a way that's hard to shake. Gifted individuals tend to develop moral sensitivity unusually early, and it runs unusually deep, not rule-following, genuine visceral discomfort when prodigies are unfair. When someone is dismissed, overlooked, mistreated, you notice it, and you can't simply move past it the way others seem to. The world is full of small injustices that most people process and release. You don't have that same release valve, and that weight accumulates. Sign 8, boredom as pain. 8th, boredom for you is not just uncomfortable, it's almost physically distressing. Researchers link this to high need for stimulation in individuals with a highly active prefrontal cortex. In simpler terms, your brain requires more input to stay regulated. When it doesn't get that input, it doesn't idle. It generates its own through restlessness, through intrusive thought, through elaborate inner worlds that have nothing to do with what's in front of you. What looks like distraction is actually urgency. Your mind searching. Sign 9, emotional depth. 9th, you feel things more deeply than most people around you, and you've probably been told your entire life that this is too much. Psychologist Elaine Aron's research on high sensitivity overlaps considerably with giftedness literature. What emerges is consistent. The emotional processing of gifted individuals is more thorough, slower, and more layered than average. The amygdala, the brain's emotional processing structure, appears to function with greater reactivity in highly intelligent individuals. You don't feel more because you're fragile. You feel more because your neurology runs deeper. Those are not the same thing. SIG and 10, imposter phenomenon, and the 10th sign, perhaps the one that will land hardest. You have never quite believed the compliments you've received. This is the imposter phenomenon, and while it touches many people, it runs especially deep in gifted individuals, and for a reason that makes complete sense once you see it. The higher your internal standard, the more enormous your awareness of everything you don't know, every way your work fell short, every gap between what you produced and what you imagined. Your mind is always reaching further. It never settles into a rival. So the praise from outside never quite catches up to the judgment from inside. Here's what all of this adds up to. Giftedness in the psychological, not the trophy case sense, is not primarily about performance. It's about a particular configuration of mind, more intense, more searching, more relentless. And because that configuration comes with weight, with friction, with a particular kind of loneliness that's hard to name, many gifted people spend decades assuming the problem is them, not recognizing it, not even having language for it. If several of these signs felt less like a checklist and more like recognition, that quiet, slightly unsettling feeling of being finally accurately described, then maybe the most honest thing you can take from this is not inspiration, but permission. Permission to stop treating your intensity as damage. Permission to stop performing smallness. Because your depth isn't the problem. It never was. It's just the shape of how your mind was built. And when you finally stop apologizing for that shape, something changes. Quietly, but permanently. If this kind of thinking interests you, there's an entire world of it waiting on this channel. Subscribe to Decoded Psychology. Every week we go deeper. And next time, we're looking at something most people never connect to: intelligence at all. Why the smartest people in the room are often the most paralyzed when it matters most.